In the name of the Creator, Redeemer, and Sanctifier. So, why did Jesus have such a hard time where he grew up? Aren't you Mary's son? And they ran him out. The truth is the scandal isn't that he was rejected. The scandal is that he was actually rejected several times, Jesus that is, by the most religious authorities of the time. The scandal is that he was rejected by those who grew up with him and a community who raised him. Now, even though it is true that you can never go back home in the same way as you become an adult, it's always a little difficult. Your relatives see you as 12 and you're, 20? The first time you come back as an adult into Thanksgiving dinner. It's hard. It's hard to reclaim and to try to figure out where you are in that world. But I find it really hard to believe that he was rejected by those who grew up with him. Those who raised him. Why is that, do you think? Why is it that it was such a message that they just ousted him, sent him out of the town? I think it's because it's a scandalous message. Jesus was saying, we are all God's children. No matter who you are or where you come from, you are God's children. And that God's blessing is available to all, and God's grace extends to all. That was not popular in the religious authorities' minds. They had a clear view of who was out and who was in this hierarchy that they had a lot of attention wrapped up into. And so this message that we are all God's children, no matter who you are or where you come from, was a direct threat to the social hierarchy. Now, I would like to say that it's still a direct threat to our social hierarchy. It's maybe once in a decade does the 4th of July actually land on a Sunday. And once a year once a decade do I get an opportunity to talk and preach about democracy. You see, I think that true democracy is a clear example of what Jesus was teaching. That it is actually a threat to our hierarchies. Liberty and justice for all. That's an incredible pursuit. It's a value that Jesus taught us. It's because of our understanding of that value, no matter if we're Christian or not, but that understanding as a nation that we want this liberty and justice for all, that allows us to create what we have today. Niebuhr, a theologian, said, "Man's capacity for justice is what makes democracy possible. But man's inclination for injustice makes democracy necessary." Democracy isn't just something to attain for, it's necessary for us to keep doing what we say we are called to do and be. What about today and now? One PBS poll wrote that 2/3 of Americans believe that democracy is under threat. What about in your mind? Do you feel that democracy is under threat? If so, what has eroded from the faith and trust in this understanding of what democracy should be over the past few years? Oh, I know you might have a list in your head. I do. These fights over what is true or truth, fights over faith in our elections, and the divide growing larger and larger between our parties have eroded the trust and faith in what we hope for as a nation. Perhaps there's this collective exhaustion that prevents us from remembering what the ideals of our democracy was about. Our ideals of democracy is that liberty and justice for all. If you were to look up the national seal has a Latin phrase, and I'm going to butcher the Latin. I'm sorry about that. I never took Latin. E pluribus unum, which means one for many, or for many, one. It comes from a writing that Cicero wrote about. He wrote about this phrase in the Roman Empire, where he wrote, and this is a quote from Cicero, "When each person loves the other as much as they love themselves, it makes one for many possible." Gee, I wonder who else said that. Jesus said that, right? That's what Jesus' message was about. It was about love and equal love for all. If we loved each other as ourselves, as equals, imagine what would be possible. The one for many is possible. It is right there on our national seal. Our traditional motto. It's pretty scandalous, though. Really think about it. All of us are equal and deserve the love that we give ourselves. As Jesus would put it, all are deserving because we are all God's children. Michael Curry had this beautiful prayer service, and I highly recommend that you look it up. It was a prayer service for national healing, and it was done on All Saints' Day of last year. And I'm pulling a direct quote from his sermon. And if you have an opportunity to watch his sermon, I highly recommend it. Why do we keep doing this? Democracy isn't perfect, yet it is the best offer, the best hope for sustaining and maintaining human freedom, respecting the rights of human dignity and equal justice under the law. And in the Bible, it says that we are to respect each human being, no matter what their race is, no matter what the color of their skin is, no matter their sexual orientation or identity, no matter the political party, no matter anything, who they are. Every human being is created in the human likeness of God and is a child of God. So despite our flaws, it is a shared value that shows God's light in the democracy itself. This is worth striving for, friends. This is worth fighting for. So I call you, if you are one of the 2/3, do something about it. Open up your hearts, open up your minds, discuss the difficult truths that we're fighting over. Remember why we are fighting for this. To remember that we are all children of God. It's a scandalous idea. That scandalous idea of Jesus that we are all children of God is not an easy thing to do. It has its costs, but we as people of God are called to do it. So on this 4th of July, on this day of independence, celebrate it, but also serve it. Go out into the world loving as though everyone you meet is a child of God, because they are. And to make sure that everyone has the same respect and dignity in our democracy, the same voice, the same vote, the ideals we hold together in this beautiful nation of ours. Amen.